All right. Well, I'm Walter Stewart, and I run a friendly local game shop, Tabletop Game and Hobby.
Friendly. Makes it feel more like friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that's the sort of heroism we strive for. Obviously, in between selling people board games and role playing games, I'm trying to like stop subways from going off track or whatever. He does subways.
That's
No,
right.
that would make sense. Elevated trains. I don't think subways can go off track. They're famously
Right.
in a tunnel.
Well, they are
So,
until they're like again the trains in New York. Like they are until they're not.
right, right. But anyway, obviously, heroism is our
But I do like that
bailiwick
it's
for sure.
friendly in there because I think we talked. I talked to you a year and a half, or a couple of years ago for CanCon 2, and we talked about how I thought again I've been to many gaming stores, and I think tabletop games especially excels at the friendly part. So I'm happy to hear you accentuating that.
It is my favorite part of the store, as I say. Like all the paperwork and whatnot is very boring, but the getting to chat with nerds, that's the part of the business I really like. That's why it's like
Yeah.
we're going into the weekend. This is my time. Like all during the week, I have to small businesses generate mountains of paperwork and I have to wrestle with that. But like on Saturday, it's like, nah, I'm just talking to nerds all day and it's beautiful. Like just happy nerds coming in, seeing what people are painting and working on and what games they're
Yeah.
playing and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's the thing. So I try to stress to all the employees, and we have a wonderful group of employees. Just that, the most important thing is like, hey, these are our people, so we should be nice and friendly and welcoming, and that's kind of how we do. But honestly, I've just hired a bunch of people that comes pretty naturally too, so we don't have to stress it really at all. It's just like, hey, it's. I mean, I work with my
Yeah.
friends all day, so it's great. That's actually the only downside is that there are times when sometimes the employees have to come up and be like, hey, we need to do some work instead of just chatting with our friends today. And it's like, well, but they're here and all these delightful people I want to talk to. But so I do get a little
Yeah.
in the weeds sometimes, but I don't know. Chatting with people's fun. So hearing about their games and their various nerd
Yeah.
things is what I'm here for.
And the dark side of that again, there are lots of people who open up comic book stores or used bookstores or gaming stores, and they talk to their friends, but it feels a little clicky. So again, the customer service that happens at tabletop is there's definitely an emphasis on greet the new people, talk to the new people, and friendly with the new people. You go into some places like everybody's gathered around the corner and they kind of don't care about the customers at all, which is not the impression I get at
Oh yeah.
tabletop.
No, when I say friends, I guess I should specify. I'm also
Yeah.
talking about
No,
strangers
you're not
that I have
talking
never
to your
talked
little
to before that
coven
day.
behind the counter. Yeah.
No, I like just somebody comes in. I've never met them before, but they talk about whatever their game or they're
Yeah.
in from out of town and what their local scene is like and that kind of thing. It's like I'm a big fan of the. It's like, oh, I've talked to you for 5 minutes. We are close friends now. I'm going to happily talk to you about things, and that's where we are. And then don't even get me started if somebody brings like their dog in or whatever. That's just then where work screeches to a halt. It's like we have got to see that pupper, and we really have to investigate. Or really any pet, but dogs are just the most common. But every so often, someone will have like the little backpack thing that's got clear like plastic on the back of it, and
Oh
they'll have
yeah,
like
like
their
the cat's
cat or
looking out like
whatever
the
in
little
there,
space
and
capsule circle. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's delightful. I love it to again. But if a pet comes in, yeah, work does ceases to happen for a little while, and that's just how it goes. So
Since I talked to you last, I mean, lots of stuff has happened in the world, but I'm curious. I guess I'll ask you
Ah.
from the top. The number one thing that happened in this past kind of financial year, business wise and economy wise, that might affect retail the most is tariffs. So I'm curious, what has business been
Yeah.
like the last 12 months, and how did tabletop negotiate? Did you have to negotiate in any way price changes or having to deal with tariffs?
Oh, absolutely. And it's God, what's a good word to describe? It sucks. It's not my favorite thing by any stretch. I mean, prices just went up across the board on everything, and a lot of those like since we're buying from distributors and the margins are kind of maintained on things, we didn't have to negotiate price. Like I didn't have to decide like, oh my god, what am I going to charge for Catan? But the price of Catan went up, so and that's just done from there. And like so we had a number of very long days where say like when Asmodee did theirs and Asmodee just changed their prices across the board one day, so we just had to be like, well, hell, we have to redo. I have to get in the system and change the prices on everything and that kind of deal. So there's been a lot of that, but a lot of that again is handled kind of more at the distributor end, and I just am sort of I'm the down, the things roll downhill, and I'm towards
You
the
get
bottom
all
of
the
that hill.
downstream effects.
It's all yes, and so we had to change a lot of that. Now there has been stuff because we order a lot of like miniature games and other pieces from overseas and like paints and that kind of thing, and that we've had to pay like tariffs directly on. So we've had to find ways to mitigate it as best we can, or absorb the costs, or and sometimes pass things on to the customer, which I always hate to do. But there's we try to take on as much as we can, but there's a financial reality to it of like, well, I normally this invoice of things would have cost this many dollars, and now there's an extra $500 on there for tariffs that wasn't there before, and it's just a new cost that frankly didn't need to be there, but here it is now, and every time I pay it, I get a little mad. But so so negotiating that it's been great, and then of course the uncertainty of it. We saw huge delays in like board games being released, and a number of companies that I really like. It was kind of the last nail. Like Greater Than Games shuttered, who made Spirit Island, which is just one of my favorite games. And so that was a real bummer. Cool Mini or Not ended up folding, which I don't know how long they would have held on without anything else, but it certainly didn't help at all. But and a number of smaller companies have kind of collapsed, which is always super depressing to see because they all these passionate people making these cool games and then just kind of getting hit by this out of the blue. And then, even the larger companies, we've seen like a pivot to a lot more smaller games and games with a little bit more of a modest scope to them.
And do you think it really is? It's a
which
supply issue. How complicated is this game? How many pieces go into it? How much material do we have to put in this box?
Yeah, and I think the pendulum was swinging towards less complicated games anyway. We had like that Kickstarter grand like post-COVID. Everyone is like, we're all going to release these campaign games that are $400 and they contain a gajillion miniatures and you'll play them for 900 hours, and which I love personally. Those are some of my favorite games. I love those games, and I have too many of them for like the number of hours in my life versus the number of hours of these games I own. But I love them. But whatever. But the pendulum was swinging away from that because the industry got a little out of control on them for a while, and I think everyone realized simultaneously, it's like, I can only play so many of these, just outlandishly huge. How many Gloomhavens can you expect to get to? So the pendulum was swinging, but then I think it was accelerated dramatically by, now it's all of a sudden very risky to produce such a game, and like, how do you logistically go about making a game of that scope? And so, more games like Flip 7, where it's like, that is a deck of cards. And it's also a great game. Like, it's the innovation in the game industry always startles me with how good people can pivot and be like, well, this is what we can work with, so this is the kind of game we can make. What brilliant thing can we make out of this? But it's unfortunate that now there's a necessity to do that as opposed to before. It's like, well, we can kind of go wherever, the whim and our inspiration takes us. And now it's
Can I ask about that? So do you get kind of feel it out in conversation with people about what they say about the time or money or their interest in smaller games versus bigger games? So conversationally, or do you sit down with the data sometimes and see it borne out? Like, I can see the big games are kind of going down a little bit and the smaller games are going up. So do you see it in the data, or do you hear it mostly in conversations?
A mix of both. I mean, so I see our sales and what we have coming in, and then I watch a lot of Kickstarters, and that's especially the home of those like large games, and there's just been a lot less and less of those big games, and they were not making as much those huge games, and that was part of the CMON issue. With CMON like really dug deep into those kind of games, and they were getting a little less and less popular as it went on. And then talking to manufacturers at like Gamma and different trade shows, and talking to them about how they're starting to pivot away from some of these larger, grander games because of component issues and that kind of thing. And then of course, talking to just what I would start hearing constantly, and like watching, like, we have local like Facebook groups and Discords about like swapping and trading and selling games, and just a lot more people being like, all right, I bought Aeon's End, I bought Gloomhaven, I bought Tainted Grail Avalon, I bought like all these different campaign games, and I need to sell one or two of these because I can't, I'm never going to get to these. Like I have, and we all, not all, A lot of us did it, especially again, like post-COVID. Like we all got those Kickstarters going, and we're all sitting at home and just look at these cool Kickstarters and not wanting to miss out. And then they all started arriving. It's like, I huh, boy, I have a lot
this
of
box
these.
turns out to be very high and wide. I forgot how big this would be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got a bunch of them, it turns out. Like, that, several of them have rolled in. And, how can I, and yeah, doing a little quick math on, I have enough games to play until 2073 at this rate. And, where are we at? So, so a lot of factors kind of coming together to make it going towards small games. But, that being said, a small, quick, faster play game is, those are also a blast. So,
do you naturally sell? It seems the natural assumption would be that smaller, cheaper games are bought more, so it's easy. It's easier for a wider swath to buy them versus like you look at the price tag on a big game. Again, board games and RPGs are really low cost for the amount of entertainment hours you can get out of them. But even a really big game, like if people are hesitant to do that, does it seem like more people buy smaller games? In other words, is there a 2x, 3x? Like how many more of a smaller game do you sell versus a big one when you look at the inventory?
Oh, absolutely. Like these small games, especially because like some of this, the graph is, what is it? It's not a straight line. It's like a logarithmic, whatever increase. Like I don't sell a ton of Gloomhavens, right? I mean, just because. Gloomhaven's brilliant game, love it to death. But it's a $200 game, right? Like people don't just casually be like, oh, I wasn't doing anything today, let's pick up a Gloomhaven. Somebody you plan to buy a Gloomhaven, you get your group together, you make sure they want to play it, you save your money for it, you figure out what you want to do, and then one day you're like, I'm pulling the trigger, I'm buying Gloomhaven, we're doing it. Right? But like Flip 7, which I talk about, which we sold a absolutely nonsense number of copies of, it's $8. And it comes in a little card pack, and it's brilliant. It's a little push your luck card game. It's wildly fun. There's a lot of shouting involved. I am awful at it. Personally, I'm always like, one more card. I'm gonna push it one more time, and it'll be fine. It's not fine.
So you have trouble taking the risk. There's
clearly
a certain level of risk taking in it that you're like, I could make a slightly better thing here.
Yeah. Because it's like you're flipping cards over, and if you get doubles of any card, then you lose everything. But the more cards you flip, the more points you get for that round. So you want to push it as long as you can get away with to get the highest score. But if you push it too far, you make nothing. And I'm always like, one more. No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. This is why I do not go to casinos, because I need all my gambling to be extremely low stakes because I'm bad at it. But anyway, it's this little $8 game, and it's a blast, and it's fun. You can play with a ton of people. Anyone can play it. But that gets picked up almost as like an impulse purchase. Like you can just I'll be showing people games, and they'll be like, "Hey, we're looking for games for our family gathering. We have this many people, yada yada." And I'll be like, "Well, this game's good. This game, naming a number of titles that I like and I think are going to fit with that person and their family and kind of what they've described." And I'll be like Flip 7's another good one, and they'll be picking up something that I recommended and Flip 7. They'll just throw that on, like because it's like it's it's $8, whatever. It's small, it's easy. So those sell just wildly huge numbers compared to like the larger games. But even then, like the more modest, your Azuls and your Kings of Tokyos and your Sagradas and your games that are your $40-$50 games. I mean, still we sell we sell a lot more than 4 copies of Azul to every copy of Gloomhaven or whatever, right? For the cost kind of thing, just because they're a lot more accessible. They're a lot more. I mean, financially they're more accessible, but also like. If I sell you Azul, it's like we can all be confident that you can get 2 or 3 friends together and you're going to play a game of Azul. Great, it's easy to do. You have game nights, you can play this game, and that's most of the standard board games. Whereas Gloomhaven, it's like, do you have 2 or 3 friends that would like to spend the next 8 months playing this elaborate game with you over and over again? And I love that we are in a group of people that the answer to that is yes for a lot of people, but it's definitely a less common sort of thing than just, hey, this game you can play with anyone whenever. and sort of thing. So they're just
Do you see an arc at all in people's evolution? If you see people come in and then return, where people grow in one direction or the other, where they start off with easier, lower stakes games, and then over time they build to the joy. Like they'll watch movies for a while, and they'll be like, "There's this great show, but it's 5 seasons, so it'll take them a long time to get started on it." But then once they're started on it, they're hooked, and like, I only want to watch multi-season shows now. So like they switch to Gloomhaven, or do people come in and seem like when they like a thing a year later, that's kind of still what they play? That's kind of still their jam.
yeah.
Okay.
You see both, but you see a lot of that evolution. You see a lot of people when they first come into the store and they're very hesitant and they're like, we don't know a lot about board games, or my friends don't know a lot about board games and we're interested in trying it. And it's like, well, here's a Ticket to Ride for you. Here's a Carcassonne. Here's a nice chill game that you can just play. But then, they come in and they look at all the other games and they talk, and, we'll talk about them. And I'm like, well, because I'll try to show them, like, here's some very good intro games. And then here's another, if you're really digging this, maybe
so you always kind of give them
the
I'm going to show you this. Here's the next level. Here's the intermediate.
Yeah. If you like that, but you want something with a little more teeth, and some people they don't want anything with a little more teeth. They want to play their Ticket to Rides. They want to play their cozy games that are light and relaxing. And great, everyone doesn't need to do like a big spreadsheet game or whatever, a thing that requires like elaborate manipulation of resources or whatever. And yeah, but then there's some people I start talking about, and I'm like, well, in Ark Nova, you're building a zoo and it has all this cool action economy sort of things that it's doing, and their eyes kind of light up, and they obviously want to go towards that, and they move in. And like, there's a couple, they've been coming in for years, but they came in super hesitant, but then later on they're like, well, tell me about this Arkham horror card game. I'm like, well, that's a whole campaign thing, and it's elaborate, and now they are obsessed with it. And it's like, that's what they wanted when they walked into the store the first time. They just didn't know it, and they didn't know how to do it. It was intimidating and that kind of thing. But you get a few games under your belt, and then you start getting the hang of it, and then it's like, well, these games, even the complicated ones, I just made air quotes, which I realize I'm not on camera, and that's not helpful. But even the complicated ones these aren't wild. There's those hilarious, like, kind of old school hex encounter games that have like 800-page rule books that are, but even like your Terraforming Mars or your Ark Nova or some of these games that are heavier, they're not outside the bounds of what we can do. It's just more a matter of, if you already have the sort of groundwork of knowing kind of how these games work and what sort of customs there are in game design and how things operate in a lot of board games, it's pretty easy to jump into. But if you don't have that like sort of groundwork, it's harder to dive in. But like, you're not the person right when they walked in. It's like, you're smart enough to play Ark Nova. Like, you could figure it out, but you don't have like the background in it, so it's more intimidating and it's going to be harder for you. So let's start you off with this thing that's a little easier.
There's a small sheet you can use for your rules, or you can figure out mostly how to use this game by looking at the back of the box. It's more someone we all know. Somebody at this table is going to have to read the book, or everyone at this table is going to have to go through the experience. We won't make one person do it. We're all going to work through the book together. So there is some, you got to put some skin in the game at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's easier to do. But yeah, I see a lot of people kind of do that evolution of, starting off with just the very casual whatever games and then getting their things. And getting that, like, or game groups kind of getting that, their couple friends that are like real hesitant about it. It's like, oh, we don't know about board games. And especially because it's like they grew up playing Monopoly or whatever. That's terrible. And so, their view of board games is like, oh, this is like this 4-hour ordeal where everyone's mad at each other at the end. And so, like, kind of showing them, it's like, well, no, there's a lot of cool ideas about games have happened since that time. So that's not the world. But kind of getting them into it and sitting there and having fun, and then ready to go.
What are the current, so we're thinking of CanCon, which is coming up soon. What are the current and upcoming products that have you most excited? Like, what will be at Tabletop's representation at CanCon, at your booth? And then what stuff is coming maybe in the next months after that you'll already be telling people about or you're excited about?
There has been a bunch. I really hope we get back in by then. And no promises on this. This is in Asmodee's wheelhouse. But the Lord of the Rings, it's been weird. Like the banger of games that have been the Lord of the Rings franchise this last year or so has been weird. And I love it, but it's just like, I don't know why all of a sudden people are like, Asmodee's like, we got the Lord of the Rings license. Let's just make awesome games
it's
about
not
it. But,
spread out over companies. Like right now, Asmodee has the license, and they're like, let's just churn out Lord of the Ring games.
Yeah, and let's just make awesome things. Now, they're putting it at different of their studios and whatnot. But like Fate of the Fellowship, which was like the new Lord of the Rings Pandemic, is awesome. And it's crazy fun, and I desperately wanted to come back into print. And it's gorgeous is the other thing. Like the art is so good. And it has this utterly unnecessary dice tower in it. That's like a little cardboard model of Barad-dûr, and it's the dumbest thing in the world. Like it did not need to be in there, but somebody was just like, screw it, we're building this thing. It's gonna take like 4 sheets of cardboard to make this dumb thing in the game, and it's just a dice tower. Like like you could just have rolled the dice on the thing, but they're like, no, not in this game. The baleful eye of Sauron is watching you roll those dice. So that's very satisfying, and that's been out of print. And then they made like a little roll and write Hobbit game called like The Hobbit: Here and Back Again, and that's, I call it that because there's a certain amount of tension. This is the level of workplace tension that tabletop has, to give you kind of the example. I firmly believe that game is called There and Back Again. And that's the name of it. And so when it's on the shelf, it should be in the T's for There and Back Again. And an employee who shall remain nameless believes that it is The Hobbit, There and Back Again. So it should be under the H's for Hobbit. And I'm like, no one calls it The Hobbit, There and Back Again. They call it There and Back Again.
Wait, can I wade into... Now I want to wade into your workplace argument. Oh,
please.
The book is called The Hobbit, and then it's sort of a secondary title. You'd almost put a colon after it. There's a thing, but it doesn't show up on the covers or anything, that There and Back Again thing. So the cover of the box. What is the cover of the box? When I look at it, what does it say?
The cover at the box. Okay, I'm going to bring it up just so I have a good... I got to look at it. God, you bring up a good point, though. I don't like that. Okay, cut this whole part out, because I can't have my employee.
No, but your argument also, again,
then,
to me... The fact that the book is called that, again, the cover of the books never say There and Back Again.
That's
it's always on the title page.
Okay,
so I'm wondering about the icon,
So it is, and I'm looking at the cover right now, and in small letters at the top it says The Hobbit, TM. And then in larger font, in a brighter color, it's There and Back Again.
I'm with you. Also, the fact that, as you said, a more important... So prescriptively, like, I guess you could make an argument, well, it says The Hobbit first on the box, but descriptively, you're like, people don't call it that. That's...
Yeah. No one's come in saying they're looking for The Hobbit, There and Back Again. People are like, do you have the There and Back Again game? And I'm like, yeah.
They don't come and
T's,
ask for the new Hobbit game.
It's in the H's.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, but that's the level of stress that I have with my employee. Like that is probably the most divisive issue that the tabletop staff has encountered in the last several months. So that's the stakes that working at when you work at tabletop, it's the big issues is what I'm trying to say that we argue over. But anyway, it's this name aside, it's this gorgeous little roll and write game, and then they've made like 2 trick-taking games, which I love, a good trick-taking game.
Wait, would you tell me also There and Back Again, you called it a roll and write. What is the mechanic you're highlighting there?
Oh, so yeah, okay. So a roll and write game is one where everyone has sort of the same... you generate random results, usually by rolling dice, but like a lot of games have like used cards or whatever to flip it or whatever, but they're all just sort of under the aegis of roll and write games. But you're rolling dice or whatever to generate like these are the resources, or this is what everyone is using to make their decisions on their own game mat, to like build things, or in this case to move Bilbo through his adventures as a hobbit. So everyone has the same access to the same resources, but you're making different choices, and sometimes your board's different, so that's influencing what you're doing. But everyone, and so it's neat because it's like it's random, but it's not like you rolled a crappy roll and I rolled a good roll. It's like we got the same roll, but what did we do with it? And that's where the strategy comes in. And they're very clever. There's a huge number of these games that are out there. They're very good because they often play like a gajillion people, because like sort of as many people as you have like little rule pads or whatever you can play. So you can play with a lot of people. They all play simultaneously, which I'm very satisfied. There's not like the same turn structure. It's like we're rolling it and we're all deciding what to do with it.
Waiting for turns is a major bummer sometimes. This solves part of that.
I am not the most wildly patient man in the world. It turns out I try so hard, but I don't do a good job. And one of my friends just sent me, because they know me, that somebody had like a cute news article that came across their Instagram that was just labeled "Guy has audacity to warmly revel in company of closest friends instead of taking his damn turn," and that speaks to me a lot. Where it's like people will be having a really good time, and it's like, yeah, but what are you doing in the game, friend? But I managed to restrain that for the most part. But anyway, these roll and write games are great for that. I do have an embarrassing story about them. Is that when they were coming out for a long time, I thought they were all created by the same designer, a person named Roland Wright.
Because they just keep saying roll and write, and you're like, oh, okay.
Roll and write. And it's like, it's the new Roland Wright game's out. And I'm like, oh, like the new Uwe Rosenberg game's out or whatever. This Roland Wright guy. And after a while, I'm like, this Roland Wright guy is nailing it, man. Roland is awesome at making games. He is just nailing it. And then finally somebody's like, you mean roll and write? And I'm like, I've told a lot. Oh, man. I looked out. I forgot. Like, there was some show I watched where somebody's like, it's a dog-eat-dog world, man. And it's like, is that what you think that phrase means? But yeah, it's so anyway.
Okay, well, that makes me feel better about not knowing what Roland Wright was.
Roland Wright.
Like, a couple minutes ago, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a dude. So, but yeah, and then they made these great trick-taking games. They made like one for Fellowship of the Ring, and they just made one for the Two Towers, and there's going to be one for Return of the King later on. But they're like trick-taking like spades or hearts or that kind of thing, except
they're heavily experiencing with providing a it sounds like a wide spectrum of mechanics. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been great. So all of these Hobbit-based games I'm excited about. So those have been really good. There's this cute little game came out that I just want a ton of people to play called Cozy Stickerville. And it's like a Stardew Valley vibe kind of game. And it's adorable. It's so easy. It's hardly a game. It's more like an experience, but it's charming. Where you're building your little farm, and every turn you flip over a card and you're making a decision and you're putting all these little stickers down on your map to like build your farm out and make your choices on what you're doing. And you can go fishing or open up pet store or gather animals or whatever. And you're trying to score points and kind of build the best farm that you can. And it's so cute, and it's just it's a sweet little game. It's adorable. And then I think my favorite part about it is the designer of it. So I get my names right, so I don't need someone calling after this goes out and is like, why did you get this guy on? He doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. Corey Konisia, I think is how you pronounce his last name. The designer of it, brilliant game designer, famous for another little game called Twilight Imperium, which is practically the same as this Cozy Stickerville. Like, it's so hilariously on the opposite end of the game spectrum.
Oh yeah, Twilight Imperium. I mean, you mentioned there's some tactical games that are far worse than Twilight Imperium in their complexity or their bad rule sets, but Twilight Imperium is so time intensive and so complex. It's the ultimate game of I don't want to play a game like Twilight Imperium, and then the people who love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, oh, absolutely. And we'll play it a few times a year, but it is like, what are you doing this Saturday into Sunday? It's like we're playing a 12-hour game of Twilight Imperium, so you know what you're getting into. But it's but just the idea that this guy designed Twilight Imperium, and then he's like, I'm going to make a little cute game about stickers. Just nothing to it. It's super light. It's a real chill, and it's like, although I do appreciate he got on Board Game Geek once because somebody pointed out, it's like, oh, well, I played a little game of Cozy Stickerville, so I had a taste for, this guy's game. So obviously I'll just pivot to Twilight Imperium after that. They scratch practically the same itch. And he did hop on and said, I have been considering, of course, making a, $300 giant board game called Twilight Sticker Empire or whatever. That's that sort of thing. And then everyone's like, well, you joke, but I'd buy that game. Let's do it. Let's do a giant sticker 4X game that's just over the top. And
it is also cool that fact that Creator is kind of an example of what I think is kind of the better. It's not the only stance. And I understand why people are the way they are, but people find something they like and then stick with that. And then if you find something you like and stick with it, the next step is if you kind of sit in that too long, you kind of start telling yourself why your choice about the game you like is the best and the other one is not. So this guy's like the perfect example of these two feel like completely separate audiences, but I feel like even among gamers I know that people are much more, well, I play stupid little silly games too, and I play these super complicated, and I kind of like them all, which I think is a nice move.
Yeah, and that's how I always try to encourage. That happens to all.
Of
We all get a little
course.
tribally in our things, and it's a natural thing to do. But we try to. That's a thing I try to shut down at the shop as much as possible. Like we have all these miniature games, and anything that's sort of by necessity kind of
Okay.
exclusive. Like you see it with like video game consoles. Like a lot of people, you only buy a PlayStation or an Xbox or a Wii because they're expensive. Some people can afford to buy all of them, but a lot of us we get one. And so there's that draw to be like, well, I can't just have my choice was the good one for me. It also has to be like the objectively correct choice. And you sometimes see that in miniature games too, like Warhammer, War Machine, all these games. They're expensive to play these games and to invest in time wise and money wise and everything. So people will pick up a game and there'll be a tendency to be like, well, I can't just like my miniature game. The other miniature games
Right.
have to suck, right? They have to be bad. And people who play those games have to be dumb because I didn't choose that game. And I see why you're trying to feel better about your purchase and everything, but that's one thing we try to shut down at the shop. It's like, hey, you're and I love Warhammer, man. I have far too many tiny plastic dudes. It's a sickness, but I love it. But man, these other games are great, right? Like, and you find the one that's good for you. And it's like I love Warhammer, but I might not like whatever game
Yeah.
X that's out there. But that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that game. It doesn't fit my aesthetics that I love, or gameplay things that I love, or style of it. Like, and I try to tell them it's like your game is for you, and I love that you love that game, and you should. But like, you don't need to
Right.
crap on this other game because it's not your thing. It's like it's not your thing, man. They make different games are for different people.
I did forget about you're
So
right. You're right to
so that kind
highlight
of deal.
that kind of money investment too. The things because I was thinking, oh, your time and you're into something and you like it and you want to sort of validate your
Yeah.
preference, but also, as you said, validate your investment. I chose this game and this is the game I
Right.
want to play. Also, maybe they feel like also they're trying to win. Sometimes they're overly negative, but they're always trying to win followers. Like, I want people to play this game because this
Right.
is the
Right.
one
Right.
I chose and I've already invested my money in it. I can't afford to play all the miniature games, so it's got to be this one.
Right. Yeah, and I try to like tell people it's like at the end of the day, you want to bring people in your game because you want to share that game
Yes.
you love with people. But still, the best way to do that is by talking about why you love your game. Like, what about the game speaks to you? Because that's what's going to do it. Is you're going to find that, and it's going to resonate with someone, and they're going to be like, "Oh, I also feel that way about things. I should try this game," and that's going to get people to play your game a lot better than being like, "Well, this game sucks because everyone who
Right.
plays it's an idiot and it's bad, and no one should play that garbage game," because they're just going to be like, "Well, you
Right.
sound awful. Like I sure don't want to play a game with you, whatever game is being played, because you
Yep.
sound wildly unpleasant." So share your passion about this game, and then if some people are going to be like, that sounds awful. Like, I don't like any of those words you said, and great, that person's not going to like the game no matter what. So they should go
Right.
find the game they love, and that's grand. But sometimes I'm going to talk about it, and they're going to be like, oh my god, that there's genetically enhanced superhumans with bolters, and there's warrior nuns with tanks and Cockney orcs, and they're like, all these things sound brilliant. Tell me more about this game. You find the person that loves
Yeah.
it, they're going to be into it, kind of thing.
Okay, what else? Well, maybe you'd want to wander there, but so I'm curious. So there's some smaller games out there. There's some good. There's licenses that are being well used, like Hobbit stuff. Is there anything else? Like if somebody shows up, this is a weird thing that's going to be at the booth that wasn't around last year.
Let's see, probably. What has been coming out lately? I know there's. God, we might have by then. I think we will have by then. Just in the miniature game sphere, they're making a Starcraft
Okay.
miniature game, and I'm gonna say I heard the announcement, and I am not like I played
Sure, me too.
Starcraft
Yeah.
back in the long ago. Like man, yeah, right. But it's never been my IP. It's not like this is not my game that I'm like this is what I'm into. I liked it. I enjoyed the game and moved on. So I was kind of hoping that StarCraft would suck, because then I could kind of ignore it and move on with my day, right? Like it would be like it would come out and I'm like, great, it's gonna be a little cash
Right.
grabby IP game. It's gonna be just this bland, whatever, not thought out miniature game. Some will come in. There's gonna be some passionate StarCraft people that pick it
But
up.
I won't
It's
have to
gonna
get
kinda
into
go
it,
for a
and I
long
won't
and
have
go
to
away.
love it and learn all about
I don't
it.
even have
Yeah.
to look at it. Yeah, and then like the rules came out, and I was like, oh man, these rules are really good. Like this is really clever. And it's just this very innovative game, and they did some cool things to like make it feel
Like the video game, yeah.
like the video game to a degree. And the miniatures are gorgeous, and they go together really well. And I'm real annoyed by it because I'm like, I didn't. Come on, man. I didn't need this to be good. I've got things to do. I got projects on the desk. But we should have that by then. I'm also hoping, God, I hope, fingers crossed, it comes back in time. This little game came out at the tail end of last year called Magical Athlete, and it's a little board game, and it is maybe the dumbest board game I've ever seen, and I love it with all of my heart because it's like you're playing these mascots in a race, and every mascot, and it's just a dumb, like you roll a die and you move your guy. And it's nothing. It shouldn't be in any way good. It's a remake of this game. It's way back in the day it came out, and it has been redone recently. But all the little guys have their own special abilities, and they're a riot. And the chaos that ensues when you get a bunch of people playing it, and all these rules are interacting in a weird way, because there's like a giant head that like just takes up the whole space, so you can't go past, you can't end up on his space, right, because he's in the way. And there's one that like, there's a Sisyphus that he goes, but if he rolls too high, he rolls way back, because the ball is going back, and he's trying to overcome that. And it's nonsense, and it's just silly, and the different combinations are there, and you can play it with anybody. Like, I don't care if you've never played a board game in your life. It's like, sit down, and it's like, which one of these should I pick? Who cares?
Does it, you
like,
really,
whatever.
In that one thing where you're talking about the roll and write, where everybody has the same thing and you make your own choices about it, is this one feel more anybody can play it because all you have to know is kind of the rule for your thing? As long as everybody's monitoring their rule, it should somebody will tell you can't do that because my thing does this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah. It's like all this thing happened. And they're these brightly colored wooden meeples for everything, and they have this super like PBS old cartoon vibe to them with like the art style, and like, you know, you'd watch like on like Sesame Street, and there'd be like that old cartoon, like a little song where like a animated crocodile was singing or whatever. It's got like a real that kind of almost 70s 80s described era art style and color palette, and like, it's beautiful, and the game is so dumb. There is nothing to this game, and I'm just like, let's play again.
Oh, you're right. Your description, I just looked up at the cover, and you're right. It does have that look of like whatever what the heck is that? You know, Conjunction Junction, like that show. But you're right. The stuff, that 60s, 70s kind of on that. Yeah, that's a very good description of
that. I love that. I love the style. It's just chaos, and it's just, again, the dumbest little game. It's magical, and that's right in the title. Right, okay,
well, that means it's working. You think it's magical? They named it right.
I do. I do. And so I'm hoping every time we get copies in, and then they just go out immediately, and I'm hoping that we'll have more in by then, because it's just a delight of a game. And like I say, it's like, it's so rare that I get a game. Like, there's a lot of games I get, and I have to be like, okay, this game is good for groups X, Y, and Z, or it's like, ooh, this game's going to be appealing if you like these sort of things. And then occasionally a game comes along that I'm just like, oh, just buy this. But who are you? It's like, I don't care. I have no questions for you. You should buy this game. Do you like whimsy? Do you enjoy enjoying yourself? Do you enjoy fun? Well, then you should probably just buy Magic.
Has everybody you played with or talked to, does everybody like it? I'll be devil's advocate and be like, is there a kind of person who, is it because there's no larger story or there's no stakes to it that some people won't like it because it is, as you said, it's just a kind of simple dumb game?
There certainly are. There's going to be, and it's less that I think there's people that are like, I'm not going to like this game. But there's a mood that you have. Man, if I want to play a game where I have, say, agency over what happens, and whether maybe my wins or losses has anything to do with my own actual ability to play, you're not going to want to break out Magical Athlete. But my God, as a palate cleanser game at the end of the night, or just like to play with friends, and it's like, oh, well, we opened a bottle of wine, and we're towards the bottom of that bottle of wine, so we should play games of this scale. And it's magnificent for that. You can kind of play it with anyone. But yes, if you're looking for like a keen strategy game or a strategy game or a game where your strategy can influence it, yes, it's not great for you.
What is so again? When I go to the store, understandably, there's a lot of real estate given to miniatures. You get into that, and you're going to be buying stuff forever. And then the board games, people, they could buy one game and play it forever, but they don't. They get into board games and buy them a lot. I want to talk about the smaller part of the store, which is the stuff that I was doing when I was in my 20s and 30s, the tabletop RPGs. Is there anything new or weird happening with tabletop RPGs right now?
We just got Mythic Bastionland in, which I love dearly. It's by the same people who did Electric Bastionland a few years ago. It's a weird setting, and I love it. You're like impoverished adventurers trying to just make your way in like a very strange kind of surreal landscape of things. It's a little indie publisher did it. And that's the thing, and that's my favorite space in that store. My favorite, if I had to pick a shelf, and don't tell the shelves I said this, because I love all of the shelves equally, obviously. But if I had to pick a shelf that was my favorite in the store, it's our big bay of indie RPGs.
Many
because
the variety is just overwhelming.
Yeah, and it is, and it's boggling. And I love it. It's like I say, that is my favorite section of the store. Because it's like there's a game for you somewhere in there. Whatever absolutely nonsense thing you're into, there's a game for it, and it's beautiful to watch. Just the creativity that goes into people cranking these games out, and like the fact that like the barrier to publishing has lowered enough that you don't need to be like a big company to do this. It's like some person on the internet has a weird idea for an RPG and they think it would be great. They can get it out there, and they can find another group of people that are like, I do want a game about a strange public access TV station. That is a role-playing game that I would like. I would like a game where I am striving to deal with the fact that giant hamsters are infesting my village, and I need to gently move them along with the help of my 3 himbo friends. Himbos and hamsters is one of my favorite it's so silly, and I love everything about it. Or somebody's like, what's Brindlewood Bay, where it's like, I want to make an RPG, and it's Murder, She Wrote, Miss Marple style little old lady detectives, but also Eldritch Horror. Let's just put those together, and so there's and it's nonsense, and it's charming, and there's games for everyone, and I love to see it. And like, no matter kind of where you're at or what kind of person you are, there's games for you, and it's beautiful to see. Like,
once upon a time, the kind of variety that shows up would have shown up in a splat book or a source book or an adventure. There'd be normally we're in the Marvel superhero universe with our Marvel superhero role-playing game, and yes, there's one goofy adventure about hamsters, or there's one goofy we're a fantasy one, and here's an adventure that's focused on, well, you're all going to be struggling for money. That's what this adventure is about. Right. But it has to kind of nestle under nestle under its own thing. And now these little things that would have been shoved under a larger thing, you could just do that one little thing. Yeah, and I think people have learned. There's for a long time, the view of a successful role-playing game and campaign and everything was, well, we've been playing this D&D campaign for 6 years, and our characters are level, they've doing all these things, and that was 100%. The way that was, and that we said that like that was success. You got a game going for that, and those campaigns are great. But the industry is now sort of spread into more of, it's like, you could just play a game for like 2 weeks and then call it a day, and then be like, you did it. It was really fun. You got a blast that 2 weeks, and then next time we're going to play some other silly little game for a week or 2 or 3 weeks, whatever. Like, not everything has to be this grand campaign that goes forever. And, like, everyone has loved one-shots, but the idea of like one-shot games, but it's like, I bought this little Hamsters and Himbos game for $15, and we played it for 2-3 weeks, and it was great. It was a blast, and it was fun to read, and we all had fun. It was charming, but like, I don't need to play that. That's not my new campaign. I'm not playing a year and a half of Hamsters and Himbos. Right. It's like, I did it, but that's what it was there to do, and it was good, and it was a great experience, and now we can try something else, and it like kind of keeps you. And
the things that you draw from some of these games and pick them up and the way they sort of cross-pollinate with each other. And like the more of these games you play, the better you get at playing games in general because you have the flexibility to do these different things that are very different stylistically or whatever, and you can start pulling them into your other games.
So people come in and maybe they know that there's a traditional fantasy RPG. They know those are out there. So then they come and they're like, well, maybe I would want to try tabletop RPGs. I would think one thing that might be overwhelming, but maybe you're finding instead that people like it. The mashup quality of all these things where you're like, this meets this meets this. And when I go to that indie shelf, like you can kind of do that with a lot of those things. This is fantasy, but it's got this twist, or this is in space, but it's got this horror thing, or that whatever.
Right.
Do people who are new to it find that mashup quality overwhelming, or does that seem that's kind of what people are looking for? I want the right mix just for me. They don't want kind of a big, strong tradition of this is the fantasy, this is the superhero, this is the horror game.
There's a lot, and there's always different players for different things, and you see, there's definitely players that come in and they're like, I want to play the game, and I want to play that game, and I want it to be in that setting and that kind of thing. And then there's all these just delightful little chaos gremlins that'll come in, and they're like, no. I want my game to be nonsense. I want these weird things, and I want to be able to draw from all these things. And they're going to look for more. They're going to be drawn more to that indie shelf and to see whatever nonsense that they can kind of bring to the table. Or just these like, I want to find this very specific niche that speaks to my group, and that kind of thing. And again, the nice thing about those little games, those little games, is they're often, again, the barrier to entry on them is it's like, and how much you have to get out of them is dramatically different. Like if I buy, a player's handbook and the monster manual and the dungeon master's guide, excuse me, and I get all of my things together and whatever, it's like I need to run a campaign. This needs to be a game that goes on for a while, and really we get together and do this thing. Whereas it's like, again, I buy this little copy of Brindlewood Bay, and we played a few times. Great. I did it. That was fun. And we can maybe come back to it in the future. But we knocked out a few weeks, and it was a lot of fun. It fits a good rotation. Maybe it's a good thing to have in between big campaigns. What I love about a lot of them is they are away. And as somebody who's a forever game master, I would like people to hear this. It's real nice sometimes when in between big plot arcs in a campaign or in areas, if somebody comes up and says, hey, what if I ran for 3 weeks this little indie thing that sounds fun? It's like, oh, I could play a game? How delightful. I would love you to do that. So all of you out there who have forever game masters, they probably would think that would be cool if you just beat the big bad guy, you knocked out a plot arc in your game, the game master needs a little time to prepare the whole next wave that's going on. Sure would be cool to have 2 weeks of hamsters and himbos or whatever, goblin errands, or maybe play the zone or something, do something nonsense.
Is there any other than so D&D and then Paizo with its not letting go of the older version of D&D, still so super popular.
Right.
Those are are there any big pillars White Wolf has bounced around, and so there's always new iterations of their stuff being done by a new company, and is there, beyond D&D and again the things that circulate around D&D, is there any other giant pillar of the tabletop RPG section now that wasn't there a year ago or wasn't there a couple of years ago?
Wasn't there then? I don't know. The Borgs are a lot more recent, and they're hard to say because they're everyone's making different ones, but there's just this whole Borg world that's out there, and that's grown very large. And I mean, obviously Call of Cthulhu has been around forever, but that's still a big thing. What I'm real excited about, and I think it goes on Kickstarter this year, and this is going to be me shouting out to 2 of my favorite people in the world, Sean and I, who run Level 1 games down in the River Market. They have a company, Mugen Gaming, I think it is, but they're working on bringing Sword World, which is the Japanese, D&D wasn't translated in Japan for a long time, and they just kind of refused to localize it over in Japan. So eventually some people were like, well, screw it, we're going to make our own fantasy RPG, and it's called Sword World. And they made that, so that's been like this popular Japanese fantasy role-playing game for decades, and they are actually working on bringing it over to English-speaking audiences. And I know they're doing a Kickstarter for it. And again, Sean and I, Level 1, I've often said, would be my favorite game store if I wasn't biased. And they are delightful people, but I know they're working on bringing that over, so I'm very excited to see when that gets over here, just because I think it'll be cool to have like this sort of, it's like this parallel evolution of role-playing games. Like we have had D&D, and it's developed for just decades here doing its thing, and then in this different market and this different audience altogether, another very fantasy sword and sorcery adventure game, but it's progressed down completely different lines because it was doing its own thing with its own players and its own market and its own culture, and it's sort of neat to see. But it has almost the same like length of gameplay. I mean, it came out not terrifically long after Dungeons and Dragons came out, and so it's had that same like long time to sort of cook and change and evolve over the years.
Talking about other places where tabletop RPGs happen to be big, so what is is it Sweden or Norway or someplace in Northern Europe? They have their own brand of fantasy. Is that sort of the Northern European fantasy stuff still big at all on the shelves? Okay.
Oh yeah, like some sort of like folkloric, and a lot of it's real dark and dark, grim, like Vaesen, and what the Die Schwarze Auge, right. The Dark Eye, which I just like calling it Die Schwarze Auge because that is a fun sentence to say. But like Vaesen, some of those, yes, there's still a lot of, again, that sort of spooky thing. And I really like couple years ago, year or two ago, God, I don't know, time is meaningless. Somebody made we got like our sort of like homegrown American equivalent. It was based on a podcast, but they made an old Gods of Appalachia
I saw that
role-playing game. Oh, it's cool. And it's that spooky, backwoods sort of thing, folklore inspired sort of horror game. And so it's like, oh, we got our own our version
the dark,
with
cold,
our own
spooky forest
nonsense
stuff.
Folklore here. Yes, exactly. But it's like over here, so it's neat to see somebody looking at that and being like, ooh, we should make one closer to home.
Is the Stranger Things Kids on Bikes vibe, Spielberg movie vibe still big? I mean, it's obviously the main books are still around, but are people still kind of adding on to that a lot, or is that kind of passing a little bit?
It's I think it's on the decline. That trend has gone for a good long time, and it's still there, but it's not. It had its heyday, and we'll see. All these things are cyclical. People change what they're into and that kind of thing, and retro especially goes in and out.
And what people are feeling nostalgic about is always shifting.
Right. Yeah, and I think we're moving away from the Stranger Things 80s kids era a little bit, and we'll see what the next trend goes into. And again, the swing from, we went to that, and then this last recent chunk of time, cozy games were super. And I think probably reaction to the world. And it's like, you know what I want? I want a game where my biggest problem is I want to get the tea to my friends before it cools too much. That is the level of stress that I want in my game right now.
That there be many furry animals.
I want it to be adorable. I want everything to be friendly. I want it to be and I think that's a very, very natural reaction to the state of the world sort of thing. It turns out it's real easy to, that 90s, it's like we all felt, those of us who were playing role-playing games at the time, which this is going to come from I'm a white dude who had no problems in the 90s. But, look at the world. It's very easy to be like, I want a dark, gritty game where we're anti-heroes and everything's grim and I wear all black and have a katana and a trench coat. And am I a good guy or a bad guy? You don't know. And it's very easy to go to that when it's like my life is idyllic over here. But then when things get a little more stressful in the world, or you're a person who it's not easy getting through life, it's like I can understand the appeal of it's like, oh, yeah, this game is about friendship and working together and helping each other and overcoming problems by collectively our friends coming together to do things. And it's like, yeah, that's a very reasonable direction
just
to be going.
Because I'll tack this on, so I've been very generous with your time, and I always have this last follow-up question, but I want to ask about that, about how people are, if you get a feel of how people are feeling. I think you can detect a little bit by seeing what people buy and what they're interested in. Is there a strand? There's always some people who are working on revolutionary games or rebellion games or politically flavored games. Does that seem heavily or is there, if I walk into the board game space, I feel like if I walk into the tabletop RPG space, there are definitely some games that are about rebellion and revolution. But what about board
Yeah.
games? Do people want to act out rebellions and revolutions right now in the board games they play?
I think we see less of that in the board game space. Like, yeah, like you say, in the RPG space. And the RPG space is because people are, like, really writing. Like, it's about, creating these sort of things and acting out. It's very me personally pretending to be this individual that's doing these things. That makes it a lot more personal. And there has been just this uptick in the RPG world of, like, the people's, like, intro chapters to a lot of their games are simply not screwing around anymore. Like, you read some of these, you're like, oh, hello, oh, you have some things to say, and they're awesome things, but it's like, we are not. Eat the Reich, which is one of my favorite games that's come out in the last couple of years by Rowan Rook and Deckard, where you're vampires fighting Nazis in World War II Paris. Their What is a Role-Playing Game chapter, which is normally just the most blandly, like,
Remember
it's the
when you were a
obligatory
child
chapter
and you
you
used
put
to play
in.
pretend and someone would, yeah.
Yeah. And now they're doing these, and it's like, oh, you have thoughts on this subject today, and it's magnificent to watch. Board games less so, but I think there's some pulling away. Again, there's more cozy-ish kind of games out there. There's more kind of friendly games. People are kind of leaning towards that. I think we're seeing a little less like war games out there, especially World War II war games in a lot of cases, because I think there's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to play the Nazis. Like I don't wanna. Like back in the 90s we were playing, it's like, all right, we're playing
Does it
this
seem there's a
Axis
little
and Allies, somebody's
less
got to be the
interest in
Germans.
super realistic, even if they're historical or ancient historical, super realistic battle stuff? And there's always people who are into tactical games and military games. Does it seem like, as the general audience, less interested in super contemporary, super military stuff?
There's an audience for it still, but I think in like the bigger board game space, things have just gone very Euro-y, and I think people, they want to. There's a lot more of a trend towards, it's like, I want to build my thing or whatever. It's like, I want to do a thing, or like when there are conflicts. A lot of the conflicts in games are like almost more like the social deduction sort of game or whatever, where it's like, I'm not necessarily looking to go blast people or whatever, or, like armies running over things.
Totally.
Although again, there's still a audience for that, but there's a lot more like, I want to lie to my friends. I want to trick them. I want to deceive my friends and family, and that will be the kind of conflict and how we
Social
resolve
conflict versus enacting kind of a game version of real physical conflict.
Exactly.
Is there anything we missed or anything that will be at CantCon that you're like, if you come to CantCon, I want you to go to, you can either come to the store after or before, or come to the booth, because look at this.
Yeah, again, like that, we always bring a big selection of indie RPGs, and that we have a larger selection of them back home. So see what the new nonsense is, because there's always just new silliness and new delightful things coming out, and you never know what is gonna drop across your vision and be like, that is my game. Like you personally, that is what speaks to you, and so that's what I would say encourage the most. That's one of my favorite things to have people really dig into, just because the joy that lights up in people's eyes when they find that weird RPG that is just precisely aggressively in their wheelhouse. And it's like, yes, your person is out there on the internet and they made this game, and apparently they made it for you. So you and 4 people think this is awesome, and I'm so excited for you.